Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Boys in the Let's try that again. Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. That's how I'm saying his name. This is from Tor Nightfire, and I chose to read this book because regular viewer and commenter Michael Booker mentioned he had been reading some Philip Fracassi. I couldn't decide what to read after I'd finished some stuff. And so I didn't want to be left out in the cold. Cold. So I was like, I have a Philip Fracassi book. Let's read that. And so this is about some orphans. Our main character is Peter. And we actually start in 1898, and we learn how Peter becomes an orphan, and then we jump to, I believe it's 1905. Yes, 1905, St. Vincent's Orphanage, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And so we are introduced to our cast. Peter is at the orphanage, and we meet the other orphans, we meet the priests, we meet Brother Johnson, who is a criminal who, instead of going to jail again or staying in jail, whatever, is basically serving his time working at the orphanage, doing penance. And winter is coming. The orphans are hungry. Their meals are meager. But they're working the fields, and Peter and Father Andrew are going to go to this farm that is miles away to get supplies, and they're getting ready for winter. And one night, the sheriff and some deputies show up at the door with a wounded man that needs help. Things happen, and then horrifying things happen. Look at that cover. You could imagine from a certain part of that image that some horrifying things might happen. So there's your nutshell. For the too long didn't watch folks, 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. And now I'm on the Michael Booker, gotta read all the Philip Fracassi train. I've already earmarked a bunch of stuff on Amazon. The story is told from multiple points of view, mostly third person, but occasionally first person from Peter. Peter is at this point 16 years old, training to be a priest. He's essentially the oldest. There's another 16-year-old, and he's not into responsibility, so Peter has sort of taken all of the orphans under his wing, ish. There's some he doesn't get along with. These aren't all good saintly kids. So we have shifting perspectives, and we have Peter's voice when we're in his perspective, and it's very, very well written. Fracassi is very good at creating the atmosphere, making you can visualize the orphanage, you can feel the weather changing, you get a complete grasp of the landscape, the fact that they're very isolated, and I'm a huge fan of isolation horror. And so because winter storms, this orphanage basically in the middle of nowhere, the farm that's a few miles away is the closest inhabited location. The city's even further away. And so very, very good. The author very good at setting the scene and helping us to feel that it is fully realized. And then the characters all have their own personalities. There's one character in particular who, as always, trying to avoid any sorts of spoilers. One character in particular who, when first introduced, feels to be completely a bad guy. Not in the sense of like he's a thief or a killer or whatever, but just a terrible human being. But the character the character doesn't necessarily develop. Our picture of the character develops. This takes place over a very short period of time, so yes, there is character growth, but little bits of character growth, because you can't have too much in such a short period of time, unless someone has there's major revelations in people's heads. But just the way the character is slowly revealed to us, they're not this piece of shit human being. There's more depth to them, and I felt myself being sympathetic to this character. And again, I think this is the sign of a great writer, that they can give a character this sort of dichotomy, this sort of depth. They're not just this, oh, here's just a horrible, mean, angry human being who's going to be an antagonist. No, they're not just that. They're not just one-dimensional or even two-dimensional. They're all three dimensions are there, folks. So again, to me, that's the sign of a good writer. And the kids have distinct personalities. There's there's the really shy kids, and there's the bully kinds of kids, and there's little cliques. There's a couple of kids that they call the twins. They're not related in any way, but they basically showed up at the orphanage at the same time, and immediately just gravitated towards each other, do everything together, and so they're the twins. And there's the three priests. Andrew is Peter's mentor and basically the nicest one. And this is sort of, am I using this correctly? Draconian orphanage. Father Poole, essentially the head priest, not the oldest, because the old guy's a doddering old fool, but that's Father White. Father Poole, very punitive, and some very nasty punishments going on. All of this we're getting before the catalyst for the horror, which is this late night visit from the sheriff and the deputies and this wounded man. And then we start getting into why they have this wounded man with them. And then some things happen that I don't want to say. And then basically all hell breaks loose. And it gets terrifying. It gets a bit gruesome. I would not call this extreme horror or splatterpunk, but there is some gruesome stuff. There were some genuine oh shit moments for me. There's one part, I absolutely love it. It's horrific. But I literally said as I was reading, oh shit. I can't believe he went there. This is fantastic. And so let me see. I'm going to look at the flap and see if there's anything. Let's see. I'm just going to read some of this because, again, if it's on the flap, I can't be blamed for spoilers. Then, late one stormy night, a group of men arrive at their door, one of whom is badly wounded, occult symbols carved into his flesh. See, I don't want to read this part because it is a little spoilery. So I'll skip this little bit and then go to, soon boys begin acting differently, forming groups, taking sides. Others turn up dead. Now Peter and those dear to him must choose sides of their own, each of them knowing their lives and perhaps their eternal souls are at risk. So that might give you an idea. I mean, this is set in a Catholic orphanage. And Peter training to become a priest, so a lot of religion in here. And I'll admit, I got a little misty-eyed at certain parts. I got choked up. I was invested. I was invested in the story. I was invested in the characters, and I was affected by what happened. Um, so, yeah, it's just incredibly well written. Fantastic characters, the good and the bad characters. Um, the thing that happens is horrific and leads to even more horrific things. And I someone mentioned, I recently posted a review for Damien Omen 2, and someone mentioned that religious horror was their favorite subgenre of horror. They said their favorite horror trope. I'm going with subgenre. And I reply, I said I think it's becoming one of my favorites. I don't think anything's going to replace Killer Animals. What could possibly replace Killer Animals as my favorite horror subgenre? Um, but religious horror, despite the fact that I'm an atheist, I'm finding religious horror to be very, very effective. Spoilers for my review of Damien Omen 2. If you haven't watched that video yet, I really, really liked that book. I gave it 4 or 5. I can't remember. I liked Damien, or The Omen, excuse me, the book. I liked Damien Omen 2, the book. I've enjoyed the movies, but the books, they dig deeper into the characters and things. I really like that. I have 3 more Omen books that I can read, and I have a box set of all the movies. Um, and The Exorcist, fantastic book and movie. Uh, so, yeah, I'm finding that I really, really enjoy religious horror. And this, as I said, 5 out of 5 stars. I can't recommend it enough. It could have been, I don't want to be overly generous with my breaking of mathematics and giving books 6 out of 5, but this was close. This was very, very close to being a 6 out of 5, but I held myself back. 5 out of 5 stars. Boys in the Valley, Philip Fracassi, Tor Nightfire. Amazing. And there you go. If I were going to make recommendations, I would go with religious horror, and it would just be things like The Exorcist. I know I'm forgetting plenty of religious horror that's out there or that I've read. I'm gonna have to well, Rosemary's Baby. Ooh, is that a spoiler? Um, I swear there's some stuff that I read relatively recently that would sort of fit into this, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was because I read too much. Uh, I'm gonna have to find just Google best religious horror, um, and really start. I guess Amityville Horror 2. Yes, that would sort of fall depending on what you think the horror was at Amityville. But I mean, there's a priest in it, and holy water seems to do things. And I don't want to spoil everything that happens in the book, but yeah, there's definitely religious stuff going on in that. So I suppose that could be considered religious horror. Um, but I don't know where I was going with this. Excuse me. Just that, yeah, religious horror becoming one of my top subgenres of horror. And, I was talking about recommendations. So, yes, Exorcist, obviously, the Omen novelizations, Amityville Horror is a great book. Amityville Horror 2, not going to say anything because you're going to have to watch my review for that book. Uh, Let me know if you have any recommendations for religious horror. And question, I guess we'll throw out the question for this video: what's your favorite religious horror book, if you have one? For me, that's a tough call. I mean, this is straight up in my head right now because I just finished reading it earlier this week, as of this recording. But The Exorcist is such a fantastic book, and I really need to pick up Legion by William Peter Blatty and read that as well. I love the movie. I need to read that book. And Rosemary's Baby is a really good book. But yeah, do you like religious horror? What's your favorite? And do you have any recommendations for me? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.